Okay, from the start, I like to start off with a sketch when I've never made something before. So this snail, I got some inspiration from Pinterest and Google, and then just took some elements from each illustration that I found and sketched it out. So I had a good idea of how I wanted my snail to look. It's always good to start off with a sketch, even if it's just a really rough sketch, so you know exactly kind of how you want everything laid out. I was a little nervous with this project because I was not sure how the shell was going to fit on the body and everything, and I thought it would be simple, but sometimes the most simplest things become the most complicated. So I decided to start off with the shell and make that ahead of time. I let this sit overnight to let it dry, not super completely, but enough to handle it without it, getting distorted. So after I finished the shell, I started with the head. The face is a little round, but it's got chubbier cheeks at the bottom, so I made a shape that was similar to like a bell, and then just started shaping it from there. I put the eyes in first and then shaped around the mouth, and then added the details in for the eyes and then the mouth. The face is always one thing that I take the most time on because it's, to me, the most important part of your piece. So the eyes especially, because I never seem to get them the right size, which is one of those things that drives me nuts. So spend a little extra time being picky about this part, because I really feel like if your face is wrong, then the whole piece just looks weird. For the mouth, I start off with a very light indentation of where the shape is going to go, and then I go back in with the Dresden tool or something to define the area a little bit more. So once you get that done, you can move on to the eyes. For this piece, I ended up going with the white clay for the eyes, and then once that dried a little, I went in with paint and painted in the eyes. For the body, I just tapered both ends, flattening the top so the shell would sit nicely on the back. And for the neck, I did add a wire for support for when we add the head. I did end up changing the position of the body differently than I had originally sketched it out, which is fine. You're not locked into anything. So now you can see I did paint the eyes already, and I'm sorry I missed filming that, but it's just two simple circles with some blue. I went with some blue eyes, and then focusing on the area on the top part of the pupil to be darker than the bottom part, which gives it a more realistic look. For the eyelashes and the eyelids, I just rolled some really thin pieces of clay and then attached them with some glue. I chose not to add any of the eyelashes that I had originally added on the sketch. I just thought it looked cute without them, and I wanted to keep it fairly simple. So here you're seeing me scrape the head off the acrylic disc, which is still kind of soft in the back, which is totally fine. I like to do a lot of the heads in this two-part process. I feel like it helps to keep the face, in the shape I want it without getting it too distorted. And then this seam that's on the side here, I just focus on blending it really good, starting off with a toothpick and then just going over it back and forth until I get it exactly the way I want it. For this piece, I know I'm going to be painting it, so if that seam is a little noticeable, it won't be as noticeable once I paint it. But if you can blend it really good and focus on that area for a little bit, once you have it blended, you can always finish it off with a paintbrush wet with water. That really helps to smooth it out even better. Once your head is all dry, you can attach it to the body using a little bit of glue. Attach it right onto the top where the wire is. And I tilted the head just a little bit to give him a little playfulness. For the legs, I rolled out a thin piece of clay and draped it over the back of him, trying to see where I needed to cut it, and then just cut around the back there, and then shaped it a little bit more the way I wanted it, definitely going back and softening all the edges and smoothing them really nicely before I attached it with some water. For the bottom portion of the feet, I went in and put some indentations all the way around to give it almost like a ruffled look, similar to how a snail's legs actually look. So once the back was all done, I wet it with some water to add the shell. I just pressed it right into the back. I didn't add any glue or anything, so it seemed pretty secure, but then I added a band around the bottom seam to give it a little extra support. Once I did the front, I moved on to the back and then just blended out that seam where the two pieces met. So at this point, the actual body part is done. We just have to finish the head. I added some 28 gauge wire for the tentacles or the eyes at the top, and then rolled some thinly rolled pieces of clay that I'm going to attach with some glue. And then at the base, I will just lightly blend in the seam at the top. Once you have those attached, you can roll out some thin balls for the eyes and then use a ball tool, make some indentations for where the black clay will go for the eyes on the top of the head. And then you can either paint it like I did, or if you had already picked your colors of clay or fondant, then this part isn't really necessary. But I think the next time I make this, I will definitely pick the color clay that I want to use first, because although I do enjoy painting, I really don't enjoy painting the full and entire piece. I think this is probably the first time I ever painted a piece completely, and it's hard. It's very tricky to get into all the nooks and crannies. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more content from me, please consider subscribing, and until next time, have a great one. Take care. Bye.